Hi everyone, we're back. This is part two of my chat with Bob Hellyer, who's one of the writers in my trilogy, Memories of Lockdown, and in my book four, which has just been published, Memories of the Lockdown Year. Bob, we're back. We are back. I think we left things with you. Having been through school, we talked about the disco, Aztec, and the wonderful people that you were involved with there. And that led you to starting work with Entech. Entech based in London?
Entertainment technicians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wembley. We were in
Right,
Wembley.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do? That they offered you work, you said yes. What happened next?
After I had done my served my notice at the Chichester place where I was working,
Yeah.
I went up to London, um, and within I don't know, a very very short time, I was actually straight out to Germany to be the bass guitar roadie for the Suite.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
They had sacked their whole road crew,
Okay.
um, because I think Mick Tucker had fallen off the back of his drum kit or something or other. Nobody rushed to save him, so they they were not at all sweet.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But it was very entertaining tour around Germany.
Yeah.
So that was my first gig, really.
That was your first
Uh,
gig. Did you know anybody else that was working on that tour?
yeah, John Bowley, he was there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
went off together.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I think maybe John started with Intech a year before. He'd already been working for a studio rehearsal
mm,
place.
mm,
Morris Packett, I think his name was Packett,
mm.
something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, we were out there, um, and that tour was quite enjoyable, obviously.
How long was it, Bob? How many weeks were you on the road? Do you
Don't
remember?
honestly remember. A
No.
couple of
Okay.
weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
We were driving ourselves around. Uh, yeah, I don't remember much more about it, really.
No. Okay.
Um, hmm. But then going back to Jointech, the next thing I remember is going out on tour with Cockney Rebel, Steve Harney,
Oh,
Cockney Rebel.
yes.
And
Yes.
I believe you might have done a spotlight for them
I
now and
did.
then.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't want to overshadow your story, but I will tell my story in a minute. So, where did you go with Cockney Rebel? Were they doing a UK or UK and Europe?
UK and Europe.
Yeah.
UK and Europe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I distinctly remember one gig in Yugoslavia when it was Yugoslavia.
Yes.
Um, the situation over there was very political, and we were stoned, and I don't mean on drugs. We were literally stoned at a get out.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
People were throwing stones at us because we come from the west, and they're almost east,
Yeah. Yeah.
but communist definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
at one point, this guy came up to us and tried to give us his daughter
Oh, to get her out of the country.
to get her out of the country. Yeah, it was very very difficult. Um, you know, you'd want to say yes, but you can't, can you? It's just absolutely impossible.
Hmm.
Anyway, that was one of the Cockney Rebel, brilliant band.
Hmm.
Met some lovely people on it. Jim Cregan, George Ford, all wonderful musicians now.
Hmm.
That was a really, really enjoyable gig,
Yes.
with along John Bowley there as well. So it was
Yes.
like a family thing.
Yes.
And then from there,
Are you moving on from Cockney Rebel now?
yeah, well, that was just one tour.
Okay, so I'll tell my little story. I was working in the office at Entech at that time, and you guys were out on the road with Cockney Rebel. And sometimes, if you needed somebody to go and do a spotlight or just fill in somewhere, you'd wander into the office at the end of the day and ask if any of us were free that evening to do a spotlight. And often I jumped on board, and I can remember lighting Renaissance.
Mm.
And what was that other band called? That other band at the same time as Renaissance. They were great. Oh, can't remember them. It'll come back to me. But anyway, and one of the gigs was Cockney Rebel, but it was a weekend. And I was free that weekend, and we all somehow we got somewhere. We were on a boat from A to B to the Isle of Man. They were gigging on the Isle of Man on either the Saturday or the Friday and Saturday nights. And I can just remember us all being on a ferry across to the Isle of Man, you know, the band, all the road crew. And then when we got to the other side, we, the road crew, were picked up in a tractor. We all had to get into the back
Yes.
of a trailer of a tractor to be
Yeah.
towed. I seem to remember up a slight hill to wherever
Yeah.
we were going. And I actually don't remember anything else except they were great. They were a fabulous band. Steve Harley was very
Yeah.
charismatic, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I remember
Yeah.
that well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on, carry on. So after Cockney Rebel.
Well, after that, there were various gigs where I was just a technician, just
Yeah.
running cables, doing this and that, wiring up the dimmers and that sort of thing. But eventually, for some reason, I don't know why, but I said to them, look, I want a lighting gig. You
Mm.
know. So they said, oh, you do you? I said, yeah. So they said, okay, well, we've got one for you, Black Sabbath.
Throw you in at the deep end.
Talk about thrown in at the deep end. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had no idea
No.
about anything, really. Luckily, my savior was Fiona, who was Pat Chapman's partner. She told me that you've got to point lights where they need to go, not all in the same place, but with colours and all that sort of thing. Once that was logically put in the brain, that was it. And it has stayed a principle of lighting, really, knowing the right colours and what they
Yes.
do, what moods
Yes.
they create, and all that sort of stuff.
So,
Yeah, so that was my first gig.
okay. And do you remember where you went to with them, where they were touring?
Not specifically,
No.
but
Okay.
I do remember. Uh, Pat Fisher was with me on that gig as
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
actually.
And
That
John
was
or not
before
John?
he. I don't remember John being on it. No.
Okay. Sorry, John, if you
Um,
were on it and Bob doesn't remember you being there. Okay. So,
John and I have been a few places.
mm,
No, Pat branched off into the sound area, sound and mains,
okay.
and is still, I think,
Yeah.
this moment,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
although ancient, still working for Deep Purple.
That
Um,
became his
but
life. Yeah.
of course, they are old and ancient as well, so that's quite fitting, really. Um,
So,
yeah,
at
so
working at Entech, Bob, I'm imagining it wasn't all life on the road. I mean, I'd like to hear more about life on the road, but when you weren't on the road, what happened when you came back to base? What were you doing?
there's always maintenance to be done.
Mm,
Rewiring if there's damage, changing bulbs, making sure that all the equipment's ready for the next time it has to go out,
yeah, yeah,
all that sort of backstage stuff,
yeah.
um, which doesn't get thought about, but uh, we all
Mm,
have to be knowledgeable to a certain extent about other than being starry-eyed, I'm at a
mm,
gig and
mm,
that sort of thing.
mm,
There was a guy that toured with us. Uh, he decided he wanted to work with this particular band, and he was just, you know, looking, absolutely
Starstruck.
dazed and dazzled.
Mm.
So much so that we called him Wobblet, because he was all bunking into things because he wasn't looking where he was going. Years and years later,
Mm.
he was a laser tech, an operator on lasers and things,
Mm.
And he said, "Whatever you do, don't call me Wobblet."
How lovely. How lovely. Good.
But yes,
So,
there was a lot of stuff that went on, in the scenes and in the warehouse, etc.
yeah, yeah, a lot of work behind the scenes to clear up from the tour you'd just come back from and prepare for
Yeah,
whatever came next. And
yeah. Because if we went out on tour, there was something wrong. It's only our fault
yeah,
because we hadn't
yeah,
left it.
yeah. And apart from going out on tour, did Entech take just single night bookings for lighting, or did they do smaller things? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. As far as I can remember, I did a one-off with
One off, that's
what's
it.
his name? What's his name? Year of the Cat.
Oh, Al Stewart.
Al Stewart. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you did a one-off with Al Stewart, I think I came to that concert. It was brilliant.
I don't know because it was in Bristol.
No, I went to London.
No,
I
no.
went to London
Well,
and there was an after party, oh, after the gig party, and Julie Christie was there, and I can remember being a bit starstruck. She was so beautiful. Yes, it was lovely. Sorry, I've gone off on one. Yep, go
no,
on.
no, no. I distinctly remember this because it was Bristol. I had
Yeah.
12 lights, six on either side.
Mm.
The support band was Bridgley Swartz.
Oh, I remember that
Um,
name.
yeah, and um, it was uh, it was in the Colston Hall in Bristol. It was a very, very foggy night, and I had to drive back to London from Bristol
Mm.
in a little Entec Thames van.
Mm.
Um, it took about 3 hours, three
Yeah,
or 4 hours. It
yeah,
was, it was,
yeah. But a good gig.
as far as I remember, yeah,
A good gig. Good. Okay.
yeah.
So just to tax your memory, tell us a few of the bands that you toured through over the years, because that work as lighting designer became your career, your working life. So tell us a few of the bands that you toured with, a few that stand out in your mind.
Okay, well, I'm not going to talk chronologically now because
No, that's okay.
I don't. There's Cliff Richard.
Yeah.
He's obviously my. It comes to light. I was worked with him for 15 years,
Yeah.
from 76 to 91.
Someone had
Uh,
to do it.
they did. They did. I
Yeah.
left him for Morrissey.
A good move, I would say. Yes. Yes.
Um, uh, see, I worked for the Pretenders. I worked for
Fabulous.
uh, there's an endless list. It's very difficult to try and pick specifics. Herbie Hancock was wonderful. I always loved jazz, but I'd never actually been to a tour of jazz
Mm,
festivals.
mm.
And he struck me as something really special.
Yes.
Uh,
And
Olivia
a
Newton-John.
nice person to work for.
Yeah, yeah, really nice. Yeah, a very eclectic group of musicians. Actually, it was it was a tour where the record companies didn't know which category to slot the music into. So the actual album didn't sell very well because because of that fact.
Yeah.
But then, you know, he's not one to follow straight lines,
No.
which is
Excellent.
another
Yeah,
endearing
yeah, yeah.
feature.
Yeah.
Uh, Olivia Newton-John,
Mm,
she was through the connection with Cliff. Um,
yes.
uh, I was asked to go and take over a tour for a short while. A short while, I suppose it was about a month or maybe something like that.
Yeah.
She was wonderful,
Mm,
really, really, really lovely girl. She was like the girl next door, really, sort of,
mm,
you know.
mm.
Um,
Which is always how she came across. So it's nice to hear that of somebody who
yeah,
worked with
yeah.
her. Yeah.
It's like Cliff, you know. He is the way you see him. You know, there's nothing hidden. He's a straightforward guy, and you get what you see.
Mm.
Olivia was just like that, you know,
Yeah.
always, oh, how you doing? You
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Um, she, I was only on the tour for the middle part of it, and I had to leave it the before the end of the actual scheduled tour to go back and do a Cliff gig.
Yes.
And she said, "That's a bit of a shame. We haven't got to know you that well, you know.
Mm.
Would you like to come out to dinner tonight?" So I said, "That would be very nice. Yes, thank you." So she said, "Well, put your bags in the back of the limo and we'll go off and have some food."
Mm.
So I did at the end of the gig, put the limo, got into the limo, and we drove to an airfield. Strange. And then we got out and went onto this Learjet,
Mm.
and we flew to the New Orleans.
To go out to dinner.
Had a meal, yeah, in
Wonderful.
a little cafe in Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the end of your tour with Olivia.
That was, yeah, yeah.
A
A
night
very
out
unfortunate.
and then what, flying back to join Cliff again or to join
Yeah,
another?
yeah.
Yeah.
To do another clip tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what a fantastic night out.
It was. It
Yeah.
was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Um,
blamed the cows for all the emissions in the world when all these rock stars and politicians, anyway, don't let's go into that, all have their Learjets sitting around. So
yes.
back
Yes.
on tour with Cliff. What about the Pretenders, Chrissie Hynde? What was Chrissie like?
The tours and the music were brilliant.
Yes.
They were. I did the 1984 tour, which is the Learning to Crawl. The album was Learning to Crawl.
Mm.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Wonderful musicians.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah. Um, but Chrissy herself, not the easiest person to get on
No,
with.
well,
Someone described her as a motorbike girl.
yeah. I don't really know
But
what
yeah,
that means.
well, she wasn't a pretty flouncy sort of
No.
person. You know. She was well, she was an ex um, uh, music critic. That's how she was started in the business, and obviously she writes good songs.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and she does,
not being one of those flouncy sort of Kylie Minogue type flouncy girls is something that most attracted me to her, apart from the fact she looks great, she's got a great voice, she writes well. I
yeah,
love the Pretenders, but I
yeah,
particularly liked the fact that she wasn't one of those
yeah,
girls, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So to work with,
Not easy to talk to though. That's what I
no,
found it not easy to talk
no,
to.
okay,
I did have breakfast with her one morning, and she commented on the way I used my knife and fork, and she said, "Are you a drummer?" Don't know.
okay. Well, that's actually
Not
just a
quite
bit.
sure what.
That's a bit rude, Chrissy Hind or no Chrissy Hind. That's actually just a bit rude. Was she vegan, vegetarian? Because she was very animal rights,
Yeah,
wasn't she?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Strictly.
yeah,
Yeah.
And did
And so
she?
was Morrissey as well, actually. Morrissey was even worse than Chrissy. He banned meat from the whole stadium,
Yeah, yeah,
even the concessions,
yeah.
you could get hot dog drinks out there.
Well,
So,
if you
I was quite, yeah, it was,
if
and the
you
Kinks as well.
if you feel strongly about something like that, which he obviously felt so strongly about it, he didn't want people all around him eating meat. So there
No,
we are.
that's
He
right.
could, so he did. What about
Yeah,
Chrissy? Did she allow meat for the road crew and all of that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But if, as we always used to do, we'd troll the dressing rooms after the show to see what leftovers there were. So we'd always find that there was something very nice, but definitely no meat ever
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Well, it's a good story about Olivia.
it
I
was.
imagine it was lovely working with the music of the Pretenders. There's lots more to talk about, but I'm thinking that that might end our part two of this chat, Bob.
Okay,
I forgot to put the stopwatch on. I'm learning. I'm learning. So I'm going to stop now if you're happy with it, and then we'll come back for part three.
sure.
Life on the road, take two.
Okay.
Okay. All right. See you in a mo.